Today, it is a city of glass and evergreen, of coffee-scented startups and maritime mists. A place where nature and innovation exist in a constant, breathtaking tension. But to understand Seattle is to know that its soul was not born in silicon or coffee beans, but in timber and tides. This is the story of a remote company town that dared to dream itself into a global crossroads, a city repeatedly built, burned, and reborn on the edge of a continent. We will witness Seattle's tumultuous evolution from a soggy frontier settlement into an icon of the modern age. The DUVMISH shore before the boom, 1850-1860, our story begins not with settlers but with stewards. For millennia, the lush, rain-fed lands around Elliott Bay were home to the Duwamish and Suquamish peoples. They lived in a world of cedar and salmon, where canoes were the primary means of travel and complex societies thrived on the bounty of the Sound. The water was their highway, the forest their provider. This deep, reciprocal relationship with place is the first and most enduring layer of Seattle's story. In 1851, the outside world arrived in the form of the Denny Party, a group of Midwesterners who landed at Alki Point. They called their new settlement New York Alki, Alki meaning by and by in Chinook jargon. It was an act of sheer optimism. The site was exposed, the living difficult. Soon they moved across the bay to a more sheltered, deep water harbor near a Duwamish village. The new settlement was named for Chief C.L. Selth, a Duwamish and Suquamish leader who, with complex diplomacy, initially facilitated the newcomers' survival. The founding transaction was symbolic. The settlers saw empty land to be claimed. The Duwamish saw a request to share resources. This fundamental disconnect would echo for generations. The town that talked itself into existence, Yesler's Mill and the Great Fire, 1861-1889. Seattle's first economy was built on trees. Henry Yesler's steam-powered sawmill, built in 1853, was the town's first industrial heart. Logs were skidded down a greased path to the mill, giving birth to the term Skid Road, later Skid Row. The mill drew more settlers, and Seattle became a rough, muddy frontier town, its economy tied to the seemingly endless stands of Douglas fir. But its true catalyst was talk. Seattle's early leaders were masterful boosters, relentlessly promoting its deep water harbor as the future Queen City of the Pacific. They lobbied, pamphleted, and promised. In 1883, the Northern Pacific Railroad chose Tacoma as its western terminus, a devastating blow. Undeterred, Seattle's citizens raised money and built their own rail line over the mountains, the Seattle, Lake Shore, and Eastern Railroad. It was a declaration of independence. Then on June 6, 1889, disaster struck. A glue pot in a carpentry shop ignited and the largely wooden city went up in flames. The Great Fire destroyed 64 acres of the commercial core. The city was a smoldering plain of ashes and chimneys. But Seattle's boosters saw not an ending but a blank slate. As one newspaper declared, Seattle will rise again, a greater and a nobler city. Phoenix City and Gateway to Gold, 1889-1910, the city that rose from the ashes was built of brick and stone, wider streets, and grander ambitions. The fire spurred massive civic engineering projects, most famously the Denny Regrade, where entire hills were sluiced into the bay to create more flat land. Seattle was literally reshaping itself. Then in 1897, the steamer Portland docked with a ton of gold from the Klondike. Overnight, Seattle became the primary gateway and supply depot for the Stampeders. Shrewd businessmen like John Nordstrom, with his shoe store, and Eddie Bauer, supplying outdoor gear, built their fortunes outfitting prospectors. The city wasn't just selling picks and shovels, it was selling a dream. It marketed itself so effectively that to this day, Seattle is synonymous with the Klondike Gold Rush in a way that no Canadian city is. The boom transformed Seattle from a regional town into a bustling, confident metropolis. Its population exploded. The waterfront was a frenetic tapestry of ships, railways, and warehouses, the undisputed commercial capital of the Pacific Northwest. The Boeing Century TAKES Flight 1910-1945. As the gold rush fever faded, a new kind of pioneer arrived. In a boathouse on Lake Union, a young timber magnate named William E. Boeing became fascinated with aircraft. In 1916, he founded the Pacific Aero Products Company, later Boeing. Seattle's destiny became intertwined with the sky. The city's skilled shipwrights transitioned to building wooden flying boats. Boeing's fortune soared with government mail contracts and the rise of commercial aviation. But it was World War II that truly welded Seattle to aerospace. Boeing became an arsenal of democracy, producing thousands of B-17 and B-29 bombers. The city's population swelled again as tens of thousands of workers, including women famously known as Rosie the Riveters, poured in from across the country. The Boeing plants were hives of relentless activity, 24 hours a day. The war effort industrialized the city on an unprecedented scale, creating a massive, skilled workforce and cementing a culture of large-scale engineering. Post-war, the jet age would secure Seattle's status as an aerospace capital. The Century 21, a future forged in space and sound, 1962-1970. Emerging from the post-war boom, Seattle yearned to shed its image as a provincial, rainy outpost. Its answer was the 1962 Century 21 Exposition, a World's Fair dedicated to the age of space. The fairgrounds, now the Seattle Center, were a dazzling vision of the future. The Space Needle, built in just 400 days, became an instant icon, a symbol of aspiration reaching literally skyward. The monorail promised frictionless urban transport. The fair declared Seattle a forward-looking, sophisticated city. But even as it gazed at the stars, a powerful, grounded cultural current was rising from the basements and clubs of its Central District and the University District. While the world saw the Space Needle, local teens were listening to the raw, electric blues of a young Jimi Hendrix or the gritty rock of the Sonics and the Wailers. This was the neglected, funky, soulful counterpoint to the shiny futurism, a gritty musical energy that would simmer and eventually explode decades later. The double-edged sword Microsoft, Grunge, and the price of prosperity, 1975-2000. In 1975, two Seattle-born computer enthusiasts, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, founded Microsoft in Albuquerque. They soon returned home, establishing their headquarters in the Seattle suburb of Bellevue. The software revolution, quieter than aerospace but no less transformative, had begun. By the 1990s, Microsoft's wealth was creating a new class of millionaires and reshaping the region's economy. Yet at the very same moment, Seattle's underground music scene erupted onto the global stage. Grunge, with bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden, was the antithesis of corporate gloss. It was authentic, angsty, and draped in the flannel of the region's logging past. The world was captivated by this paradox, a city simultaneously breeding the architects of the digital future and the poets of generational disillusionment. The boom had consequences. As tech wealth poured in, the city began to change, faster, richer, more expensive. The gritty, affordable spaces that incubated its culture started to vanish. Seattle was grappling with the classic American dilemma, how to grow without losing its soul. The perpetual reinvention coffee, clouds, and contradictions, 2000 present, at the turn of the millennium, Seattle's identity became a triptych. First, it became the coffee city, with Starbucks evolving from a single Pike Place market store into a global chain, embedding third place, culture, and artisanal caffeine into the urban fabric. Then it became a cloud city. Jeff Bezos founded Amazon in a Bellevue garage in 1994, and its growth would dwarf even Microsoft's, transforming South Lake Union into a forest of glass towers and turning Seattle into a magnet for tech talent worldwide. The cityscape became a silhouette of construction cranes. This explosive growth brought immense prosperity and profound challenges, soaring housing costs, traffic gridlock, and a stark visibility of homelessness. The third panel of the triptych is its enduring natural soul. Despite the urban pressure, Seattle remains a city where within minutes you can be hiking in old-growth forest, kayaking on salmon-rich waters, or skiing on a volcano. This tension, between breakneck innovation and a deep, physical connection to the natural world, is the city's defining modern dialectic. It is a place of progressive politics and painful inequities, of introverted Seattle freeze and globally influential philanthropy, of billionaires and buskers playing grunge covers under the monorail tracks. Epilogue. The next regrade Seattle's story is not one of linear progress, but of successive waves, of timber, gold, plains, software, and coffee, each washing over the last, never fully erasing it. The city has been, in turns, a Duwamish home, a booster's fantasy, a blue-collar company town, a fairground future, a guitar feedback whale, and a server farm humming in the cloud. It is a city perpetually under construction, both physically and philosophically. The Great Fire of 1889 taught it to see destruction as an opportunity for reinvention. That lesson is etched in its DNA. Today, as it wrestles with the blessings and curses of being a tech titan, it faces a new kind of regrade, not of hills, but of social and urban landscape. The questions are monumental. Can it build a city that works for all? Can it honor its indigenous and working-class roots amid soaring glass? Can its legendary natural beauty survive its human footprint? If history is any guide, Seattle will not shy from the attempt. It is a city founded on talk, built on hustle, and forever looking toward the next frontier, whether that frontier is the Yukon, the stratosphere, the digital sphere, or simply a more sustainable and equitable way to live in this beautiful, demanding corner of the world. The 19th century boosters shouted their dreams into the mist. The 21st century city is still listening to that echo, still trying for better and worse to make it real.